A very good evening, and once again, thank you so much for joining us. This is UBC News Tonight. My name is Patricia. Today is a very important day, a day we witnessed Minister Amongi vividly grilled there with the Land Commission over gross abuse of powers. But of course, we will have that in detail as we enter into details with our bulletin. But first, let's have the headlines. Museveni holds talks with host LCC. Minister Amongi finally humbled by commission. UPDF patches up Somali clan relations. And in sports, Uganda Cup semi-finals draw conducted. Well, once again, this is News Tonight. I'm Patricia Lukoman. On sign language, we will shortly be joined by Jonan Opori there. Now, straight away into the bulletin. President Yoweri Museveni, who began a two-day state visit to Egypt yesterday, has congratulated his host, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, upon his resounding victory in the March 2018 presidential elections that gave the Egyptian leader his second term as president. President Yoweri Museveni described he described him as a freedom fighter like his predecessor, Abdel Nasser, who rescued Egypt from being taken over by extremists who would have caused problems for Egypt and Africa.
في شريان حياة واحد هو نهر النيل، بل تتشاركان أيضا في نفس التطلعات التنموية.
And Uganda Investment Authority to be signed by His Excellency.
I had a long talk with His Excellency Sisi. First of all, I congratulated him on being elected for the second round as President of Egypt. Secondly, I congratulated him for rescuing Egypt from the takeover by extremists who would have caused a big problem for Egypt and for Africa. I regard him as a freedom fighter, like myself, like Gamal Abdel Nasser, because he saved Egypt. The politics of identity, what you call in your Arabic, Hawiya, very dangerous politics. The politics of Hawiya can destroy a country. We revolutionaries, we believe in the politics of maslah. We call it maslah. I hear interest. We also, as he told you in his speech, we also discussed the issue of the private sector, utilizing the opportunities which are there, as you heard him say, adding value to our vast raw materials, so that we sell finished products instead of selling raw materials. When we sell raw materials, we lose money, but we also lose jobs, because the processing does not only add value, it also adds jobs. However, we are not going to wait only for the private sector. Even government to government, we can do some projects bilaterally. The government companies of the government of Egypt and our companies can also do projects.
Now, about the ongoing land probe, the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Betty Amongi, does not seem to know how to distinguish personal business from a government job. This has come out vividly from her plea with the Commission on Land Inquiry to consult with the Attorney General on how to go about with the matter. The Commission has for the last 2 days grilled the Minister over gross abuse of her powers.
For the second day running, the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Betty Amongi, has been grilled by the Commission of Inquiry into Land Matters. Amongi's justifications and explanation seem to show that she used the office to legally amass property through an own private company, Amobet Investment Limited. The minister disclosed that she has 60% shares in Amobet Investment Limited, with the rest belonging to a relative.
Is it all right for a person to attempt to steal? In fact, at some point you stole because the land changed names and the person had to buy it back. Is it all right in this day and era? That's a matter of conscience. You don't need to read a book.
One of the properties legally acquired by Amobet Investment Limited is an infrastructure on Plot 29 on Acacia Avenue.
But also, as a minister, to consult with my legal people on how I am able to do business and distinguish if there can be areas that he would have assessed that he gives advice. I think I would consult more the council, even the Attorney General, to give me advice on how to handle now the business of Amobet, my council and Attorney General.
As the Minister of Lands, Amongi is a board member of the departed Indian Property Custodian Board, and as such, acquisition of any property by her company through the government body is a controversial to the leadership code. Other matters into question pertain to the land fund, which admittedly no official account has ever been opened for that purpose, whereas the minister is equally accused of assuming powers of the Uganda Land Commission, a corporate body. Zahara Wigaba, UBC.
Well, that is all about the land probe. Now moving on into the High Court. The High Court Execution Division Registrar Dio Nizeimana has withdrawn from hearing of former Minister Major General Jim Muhwezi's case, citing conflict of interest. Nizeimana was expected to begin hearing Muhwezi's plea to block his eviction from a piece of land in Makindye. but he has instead transferred the file to the Chief Registrar, Justice Paul Gadenya. Last week, Muhwezi was evicted from the disputed land by court bailiffs in the presence of police officers. The land is comprised of a block 273 Chamula Salama, a Makindye division, and in his affidavit, Muhwezi claims he is the rightful owner of the said land, which he purchased from one William Hatimana in 1995. Defending his action to evict Muhwezi, Mobiro says he sought court bailiffs' intervention on the grounds that Major General Muhwezi fraudulently obtained land that forms part of the estate of his late father, George Sekajuko. Right now, we're going to take a short break, and of course, when we return, we have more segments in News Tonight. Stay with us. Now, starting off with UCC, there are a number of ways to achieve universal internet broadband connectivity. Optic cables and terrestrial microwave systems have been used for years in Uganda in order to increase communication network coverage. Satellite technology has become cheaper, more efficient, and adaptable to remote communities, so that it has been added to Uganda's internet broadband duo model.
Most of Uganda is rural. The majority of people live in the countryside where development indicators are still poor. At Uganda Communications Commission, efforts are being made to increase the rate of societal transformation via satellite innovations.
We are piloting satellite as one form of broadband infrastructure to deliver internet to the rural communities.
Access to a high-speed, high-capacity, affordable communication network is necessary in a fast-changing world. Yet only 18% of African households are connected to the internet. International Telecommunications Satellite Organization is working to improve the situation.
The importance of broadband for sustainable development has been widely acknowledged by a variety of stakeholders. National governments, international institutions, and the private and public sector have all acknowledged the importance of bridging the digital divide to foster economic growth, social inclusion, and practically all areas of individual concern.
Many of these underserved communities have very low literacy and income levels, insufficient penetration of internet-enabled terminals, as well as challenges in securing relevant content. At the same time, universal broadband connectivity using microwave link and optical fiber is expensive to install, maintain or secure, and requires reliable power supply. Another option had to be found.
One thing also that satellite does is that it helps us do away with the oversized towers that you see out when you go out in the roads and you see oversized towers on top of hills. These are expensive ventures that you have to put in if you have to roll out, backhaul this data to a rural community, and you have to use microwave, which rely on the line of sight.
Satellite is now used in a dual model to spread broadband and internet coverage to rural, remote parts of this country.
Full-reach solar 3G is an end-to-end solar-powered managed solution that enables mobile network operators who want to expand their service footprint efficiently into rural regions where traditional network build-outs are uneconomical. Our goal for this pilot project is to provide your communities with fast access, reliable and high-quality broadband connectivity. This connectivity is affordable and sustainable over the long term and can be replicated throughout other parts of Uganda.
Chibuku in Toroko district and Bufundi in Rubanda district had a special problem. The two communities did not have signals from any mobile network operator. This latest generation Intelsat unit has taken connectivity there for the very first time. Plans are underway to spread the technology to other parts of Uganda with similar challenges.
We intend to roll out the same in other areas of the country. These came first because they didn't have any network coverage to begin with. There was nothing in Itoroko in terms of network connectivity, and there was nothing in Rwanda. So they were chosen to come first.
Uganda Communications Commission, International Telecommunications Satellite Organization, Intelsat and MTN work together to make the pilot remote broadband connectivity project possible. Uganda is showing commitment to the United Nations principle that says communication by means of satellite should be available to the nations of the world as soon as practicable on a global and non-discriminatory basis. For UBC TV News, I'm Rachel Takali.
Now about clans in Somalia, the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia has had its eyes set on Al-Shabaab terrorists as the country's major enemy, though conflicts between rival clans have pitted the troops in harm's way, complicating the peacekeeping deal. With normalcy returning to some parts of Somalia, residents are fast forgetting the common enemy Al-Shabaab and shifting sides to the traditional enemies, the rival clans.
Take, for example, Baganda with their many clans, the Mamba clan and Chima Mbogo. Now imagine these clans fighting each other to the extent of not crossing into each other's territories. That was the situation here between the Bimar and Abdigiri clans, until the UPDF under AMISOM came in to intervene. It's hard to fathom that people of the same tribe and same religion can be at such odds. At the core of a Somali's identity is the clan. Children from early years are mentored to recite their genealogy and hold in the highest regard their clan leaders. The clan structure here spreads into politics. From Sayed Barre's regime, although he emphasized unity, inter-clan tension had bred over the years. With his fall came the collapse of government institutions, which gap was then filled by clan-based armed rebel groups fighting for power and resources.
Their fighting is starting because of land. There is clan who come from far from this clan, who is here.
Which clan is here?
It's called Bimal.
Their very identity had turned against them, fueling the dragged-out crisis. The bickering among clans fits perfectly in the Al-Shabaab's plan.
The problem was because of these other imported negative forces, the traitors, because they did not have that conscience of unification. Once they decide, they have that conscious unification of Somalis, and they fight Al-Shabaab as one person. Because why not? The elders have the command here to call back their youth and say, now it's time, come back. Let's build one Somalia, and let's be one.
And in building the much-desired One Somalia, the UPDF under AMISOM has embarked on reconciliation initiatives between conflicting clans.
So because of our efforts to ensure that the leaders from these two clans come to table and talk, at least it has yielded its fruits. And some of them were telling us that the last mate for the past 14 years. Others from here going to the other place where we went yesterday, that taken over 4 years without reaching there. It is very near like that, but crossing here to there, so much difficult. So because of our efforts to ensure that we talk to all bring the leaders together and they talk, at least there is some peace and harmony between the two clans.
Yusuf Osman Ali is the chief of the Bimar clan in Sirijali, Marka region. For years, his clan and that of Abdigiri have been at loggerheads.
But that time it was bad, but this time is good because of this battle group commander of UBDF AMISOM. And he talked to us and that clan, and now we are fine. We are good. We are brothers. and now we work on them, us and them, we are now one.
Rhoda Ngonzi, UBC News, Lower Shabelle, Somalia.
The Ugandan nurses and midwives want government to recruit and deploy more nurses and doctors in all hospitals countrywide instead of hiring Cuban doctors. The General Secretary Mufumba Emmanuel, while addressing the media at the headquarters in Molago, Kampala, says they are understaffed, forcing them to work for long hours, hence resulting into cases of death.
The issue of bringing in Cuban doctors, for us as the Nurses Union, we wouldn't encourage it because we have enough manpower, only that Ministry of Health and maybe Ministry of Finance and Public Service, they have not lifted the ban fully to recruit more or enough health workers. Actually, when there was a problem of a maternal death in some hospital and a certain midwife was taken to court, then they thought that the midwife neglected. But this midwife had attended to 9 mothers in labor alone, but also investing in human resources is very important. So risk allowance is a very important thing to address, especially at the time right now when the Ebola outbreak, the cholera outbreak is out.
Now, heading again into other stories, Parliament is being asked to enact the 2017 Wildlife Bill to help curb increasing transnational wildlife crimes. According to the farmers of the bill, the current law is too weak to accommodate changing trends. This was at the Uganda-China bilateral meeting aimed at tackling transnational wildlife crime held in Kampala.
It is no secret that Asia and China specifically have been the leading destination for wildlife products, a status that has fueled transnational wildlife crimes globally. China recently decided to take the bull by the horns in its campaign to reverse wildlife trophies trade. It is on this basis that Chinese officials are in the country to share skills on the best way to stamp out the vice.
China has been deemed to be the destination for all the trafficked wildlife products. So it makes sense that we engage them, but also we get to know whether they are taking more practical steps to stop the trade or limit the destination of trafficked products.
Though Uganda has in the recent past been doing well in changing the trend of wildlife crime, a lot more remains to be done for meaningful results. The Director, Interpol Assistant Inspector General of Police, Fred Yiga, says most wildlife crimes are highly monetized that require serious and concerted efforts if the vice is to be wiped out. Assistant Inspector General of Police Fred Yiga is now calling for collaborations at the international level through harmonization of legislations across borders.
We make sure that the punishment I get in Uganda is almost equal to the punishment I get in Kenya, is almost equal to the punishment I get in China, so that there are no discrepancies in the punishments court prescribe.
The Commissioner Wildlife Conservation, Dr. Akankwasa Barirega, recognized the fact that the current legislations are too weak and not stringent enough to reverse the trend. He challenged Parliament to expedite the enactment of the 2017 bill that seeks to impose tough measures against wildlife crime perpetrators.
Therefore, the penalties which were strong in 1996 have since become peanuts within the Ugandan context. So we have revised these penalties and made them much more stringent to ensure that being involved in illegal wildlife crime is a very expensive venture.
The country director, Wildlife Conservation Society, Simon Nampindo, insists that engagement with the locals remains key in the struggle against the trade in wildlife.
They become vulnerable in the sense that any security agents can hand over guns to them and they use them to shoot animals. They don't really own these guns, but they create an opportunity for people to collaborate.
For decades, tourism has been a big foreign exchange earner amidst little investment.
Yeah, no later.
Yela Masangano, UBC News.
Now, Lutembe wetland, a Ramsar site famous for bird watching in Kajansi along the shores of Lake Victoria, is under threat given the human activities around it. Dumping of garbage is among the latest vices on the wetland, attributed to the absence of the garbage collection center in Kajansi Town Council.
Lutembe Bay wetland along the shores of Lake Victoria is threatened with extinction. Famous for birding, Lutembe is considered among the wetland of international significance, commonly known as the Ramsar site, since 2006. It is known to be among the main migratory bird stopovers and a notable bird-watching site in Uganda. About 3.5 million birds of over 200 species flock the wetland in September and October and stay up to February and March. Our visit to the site exposed the ever-increasing human activities like sand mining, real estate development and farming, among others, that if not checked might see off the rich breeding ground for fish and a source of water for the surrounding communities vanish. Garbage, said to be collected from Sisa and Katabi sub-counties in Wakiso district, is said to be dumped here by businessman identified as Sekatawa, who wants to extend his development on this delicate ecosystem.
So he uses this garbage, as you see, and later fill with it with maram so that he can expand it. All the places that you see here, he used to do the same. For us, just we've got a chance to come and see.
The chairman to Tourism Association at Lutembe Ramsar site, Dalaus Katende, vows to do what it takes to protect the wetland.
Lutembe is an important bird area. So as the community around, we are trying to protect it because it's a wetland center of Uganda. And two, is in between Kampala and Entebbe. Very many people that are passing, seeing this wetland, so we need to keep it as it is.
Mr. Katende told UBC that Kajansi Town Council does not have a gazetted area for dumping garbage, to which the mayor, Patrick Ibiekwaso, admitted.
No, we've not got place yet because we are proposing to get a place where this Katabi.
Yes.
Katabi Town Council and the Kajansi Town Council will get money and buy that place where we can take that service. Just trying to organize. Because I have to go and introduce all this to the executive and we'll discuss it. Thereafter, then I'll be in the right position to deliver each and everything that you want from me.
Efforts to get a comment from Wakiso district officials and the National Environment Management Authority over the matter were futile as they declined to pick our calls.
The subscriber you have called does not answer. Please try again later.
Despite their importance, it is estimated that the wetlands area has reduced from 15.6% in 1994 to 10.9% in 2017, and about 570,000 hectares of wetlands in various parts of the country have been lost in the last 20 years. Bernard Iga, UBC.
Well, thank you, Bernard Iga. The Intergovernmental Authority member states have been asked to put more emphasis on restoring the environment. State Minister for Karamoja Moses Kizige was officiating a 3-day regional platform on drought resilience and sustainability initiative steering committee meeting.
Close to 1.4 million refugees, mainly from South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, Rwanda, Kenya, Eritrea, and a few other nationalities. They are putting strain to the already inadequate resources and the services in Uganda. The problem is compounded by the destruction that is caused by the environment, wherever they have been consumed in the big numbers. Nevertheless, we have an open door policy to refugees. We have allowed them into our country, and we are sharing with them the little resources that we have.
Was able through soft loans and guarantees mobilize over $1 billion for the benefit of the region for the implementation of drought resilience agenda during the first phase of the 5th year. We are now almost 5 years since we started the implementation of the strategy which was translated at national level into country programming papers and at regional into regional programming papers.
Now, members of parliament are against the move to borrow $40 million from the World Bank to facilitate risk management of gender-based violence. This is after the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development issued a statement on the progress of the loan acquisition.
So this loan is timely.
It does not require us to borrow 200 billion.
A few weeks ago, the Minister of Finance rejected a proposal to acquire $40 million World Bank loan aimed at strengthening the campaign against gender-based violence. The Minister for Finance, Matia Kasaija, briefed Parliament about the conditions surrounding the loan.
I therefore reject the statement made in the media that the World Bank forced this loan on the government of Uganda.
The $40 million is intended to increase participation in gender-based violence prevention programs and utilization of multi-sectoral services for survivors of gender-based violence.
The mechanisms I have put across includes training. It includes empowerment of young girls and women.
So if Cabinet approved that money and the World Bank is willing to give us some money, and indeed we do have a gender violence problem, then I suppose we do the needful and deal with our problems.
Cabinet has reportedly approved the loan that targets to fight gender-based violence in 13 districts of Uganda. This followed concerns and allegations of sexual misconduct by contractors on several development sites across the country.
We have had general interventions that we have to step up as of now.
Talked about social safeguards. And the social safeguards are related to the occupational safety and health, both at workplace, in the communities, at the institutions, and in homes.
Among the areas of focus of the 5-year project include establishment of gender-based shelters and advisory centers, facilitation of procurement and distribution of 100,000 forensics evidence collection kits for sexual assault, rehabilitation and equipment of 26 health facilities, rehabilitation and equipment of 13 police stations, training of district probation officers, labor officers and community development officers, training and equipping 1,500 health staff with learning materials to respond to gender-based violence, and facilitation of 10,000 staff from police, DPP and the judiciary, among others. The controversy over the $40 million loan arose when Minister of Finance rejected the loan owing conditions from the World Bank. However, a point to note is that this is not the first loan Uganda acquires from the World Bank. Members of Parliament have condemned the move.
What is causing gender-based violence is poverty.
But domestic violence cannot be solved by borrowing money to a tune of $40 million.
Members of Parliament have proposed several recommendations that ought to be taken to fight gender-based violence rather than increasing debts.
Domestic violence can only be worked upon by sensitizing our people in churches, through local councils, which doesn't need board money.
The Committee on National Economy is currently handling the report over this loan. MPs have vowed to come out with a minority report to reject the law if the committee approves it.
And I assure you, if the committee adopts that report, we are going to come up with a minority report to reject that loan. We are not going to accept our country to borrow monies for consumption.
This is not the first initiative against gender-based violence. Several initiatives have previously been tried by civil society, among others, against the vice. Susan Nawonga reporting.
Well, thank you so much, Susan Nawonga. And of course, Susan Nawonga ends our first segment. Right now, we're going to rush out for another break and then return with our business segment. Stay with us. Now, the rapid concrete facelift of Kampala has claimed another city landmark. Total gas station, Namirembe Road, opposite Kwalisel Arcade, has been razed. The petrol station, which originally belonged to Caltex Uganda, is now rebel as the better and good business structure is already underway to replace it. However, the removal of a fuel station from a densely populated business center comes as a sigh of relief to some members of the business community, since the risk of unpredictable fire outbursts diminishes. And of course, it's time to look at our financial markets, starting off with the forex market. The shilling is still trading between 3,708.17 and 3,718.33 respectively. And of course, that is buying and selling. And we also have an update on what's happening on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Take a look at the preview. And of course, turning on to the stock exchange, as you can see, Bank of Baroda Uganda there traded at 149. That is a surge from the previous one. Of course, it's a surge of 2.1%. And there's a slight mistake there of British, the British American Tobacco Uganda. That is not a trade share price. Actually, those are shares traded. And of course, the price at British American Tobacco Uganda is practically 520 shillings. NVL, that is New Vision Limited, is 510. That has been a stellar price for quite some time. Our DFCU, our famous leader of the wagon, is usually trading between 876, 889, quite there. But today there wasn't much activity, as you can see. And then National Insurance Corporation is still trading at 18 shillings. But of course, a little bit of surge in terms of volume. That's why you see a plus 1.1%. SBU, 31 shillings. Wumeme is still at, actually, there's a slump there on Wumeme. The previous we previewed was 398. Right now we see 390 shillings there. And on to the international scene, an Ebola outbreak has been declared in the northwest of the Democratic Republic of Congo. There are 2 confirmed cases of the virus and 17 deaths. The health ministry said that on Tuesday. The incident in the town of Bikoro comes more than a year after an outbreak in the country killed 4 people. In 2014, more than 11,000 people were killed in Guinea, Sierra Leone and Liberia. The outbreak declaration was made after laboratory results confirmed 2 cases of Ebola out of a sample of 5 suspected patients, the World Health Organization confirmed. Now over to North Korea. It has freed 3 U.S. citizens from prison, according to a tweet from U.S. President Donald Trump. It is viewed as a goodwill gesture ahead of a historic summit between Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Mr. Trump said he would greet the men when they return with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who has been in Pyongyang to arrange the planned talks. Right now, we go for another short break and, of course, return with our sports news. Stay with us. In sports, semi-finals draw for the Uganda Cup tournament has been conducted. Uganda Cup holders KCCA FC have been drawn to face Fufa Big League side Synergy FC in the last 4 stage, whilst SC Villa are up against Vipers SC. The matches will be played on a home and away basis on the following dates: the 23rd, 27th, 30th and the 31st of May 2018. Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets have secured safe passages into the National Basketball Association Western Conference playoff finals. Golden State Warriors eased past New Orleans Pelicans by 4-1 in their best-of-7 semi-finals. In Game 5, Golden State Warriors relied on Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant to secure a 113 to 104 victory. And in our last story, former Africa Player of the Year Yaya Toure has been honored by his current club, Manchester City, that is letting him leave at the end of this season. The Ivorian has heard a monument in his name as a way of celebrating his football career with the club. In his 8 years as the club since arriving from Barcelona in 2010, he has played a huge part in the city's rise, initially by being one of the first signings they made of a really top player from a big club. Now that's it from us, and this has been News Tonight. My name is Patricia Lukuma, but before we sign out, let's have a recap on our headlines. Museveni holds talks with the host LCC. Minister Mongi finally humbled by commission. UPDF patches up Somali clan relations. And in sports, Uganda Cup semi-finals draw conducted. Thank you so much for choosing UBC and News Tonight in particular. It has been quite a warm night. My name is Patricia Lukoma. On sign language, we were joined by John and Opori there, but of course do not go away. We will be having the 10 o'clock News Tonight with you. Stay tuned.